For all your TCG needs, make sure to check out sabatcg.com. What's poppin', everybody? This is Sabatcg. In this video, I'm going to be ranking the best Pokemon to use in the Pokemon Emerald Battle Frontier. Starting with Gen 3, we're going to do the Gen 3 Horn Pokemon today. And then in two different videos, I'll cover the Kanto Pokemon and Johto Pokemon. So a few years ago, I think 3 to 4 years ago at this point, I made the best Pokemon to use in the Battle Frontier. It was a long 1-hour video where I basically used Smogon as a reference just to have images to look at the Pokemon and check out stats and stuff. But I talked about the best Pokemon to use in the Battle Frontier in general. At that point, I had all of the gold symbols except the one from the Battle Palace. Since then, I've acquired all of them, and I got a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge in regards to the Gen 3 Battle Frontier, the Gen 4 one too. And everything I said in that video and everything I say today and in any guide video I make for the Gen 3 Battle Frontier is based on using the game on the cartridge, not emulating, not connecting the game on the computer, but it's not emulating, or all the different other methods people use to speed up the process of shiny hunting and adjust frames and do all that stuff. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm completely clueless. I just played the game on cartridge. I got all of the Gen 3 games. Obviously, you gotta breed, you trade Pokemon, you prepare in that way. You soft reset for some legendaries, clone the Master Ball in the Battle Frontier in the Battle Tower in Emerald. But besides that, everything I've done is completely legit, and you can just do it as long as you have a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Advance SP and then your game at home. That's about it. Okay? So in regards to the tiers, there's obviously a bunch of Pokemon that they're not even worth mentioning. So if I just completely ignore them, it means don't even bother. Everything that's going to go in D is Pokemon that could be good if this was like maybe 6 versus 6 and you got a plan, you got some strategy, they could work. But in general, it's a bad idea to use them in the Battle Frontier. Okay? C are Pokemon that, again, is probably not a good idea to use them, but they're at least not as useless as the D Pokemon, in the sense that I guess maybe they got some good stats, but again, they got a bunch of stuff that makes them not the best candidates. And from B is Pokemon that, you can't use them, might not be the best options, but they can at least perform. A is obviously the really good stuff, and S is the best Pokemon you can think of. Okay, if you want to be serious. Now then, we're going to start with Sceptile, the grass starter. So I mentioned this pretty much in the best Pokemon video that I make. This guy, his best use is as a cleaner with the really high speed and special attack. But the problem is he's really fragile, and unlike Starmie and Alakazam and Gengar, he doesn't really have the coverage moves. Leaf Blade, okay, your Grass Stab, but it's 70 power, so it's not going to hit as hard. It can do Thunder Punch. Coverage, good once again, but kind of a weak attack. And then what else? It learns a bunch of good physical moves like Earthquake. But if you split between attack and special attack, it's not going to be very good. I guess if you have like something like Brick Break on to hit Blissey or something, yeah, maybe. But for the most part, it's just not a great candidate. You can do like Leech Seed and try and do stuff like that, but I'm usually against trying to stall in the Battle Frontier, because if your opponent gets a critical hit, it's game over. It's always a big risk doing stuff like that. Sometimes it works, but for the most part, you want to kill your opponent as quickly as possible. So with Sceptile, he's either going to go in B or C, and I'm not quite sure. I think I'm just going to put him into C for now, and then maybe we can buff him up later if I change my mind. Next up is Blaziken, the fire starter from Gen 3. This Pokemon, the only real shortcoming it has, it's the very mediocre speed. It's pretty much the original Infernape, you could say, but with lower speed and better offenses. So Because you can do like the Endure Select Berry shit, I'm just gonna put this guy to B straight up because that tactic can be powerful and your opponent usually can't really do much about it if you don't have a way to stop that with Status or like Sandstorm from Tyranitar. But maybe, you know what? It's still, I don't want to give the impression that this guy is really recommended though, but let's put you to C as well. Good coverage, you know, good offensive stats. Stab from fire, stab from fighting. Can learn a bunch of moves, so it's good. But it's gonna die to Surf, it's gonna die to Earthquake. You can't really take a hit. The speed is the problem, like I've said. You can do the reversal shit, but it's risky stuff at the end of the day. So I'm thinking about between B or C, but I'm just gonna keep him in C. Okay, Swampert, this is pretty easy. So this is going straight to S. Swampert, even by all the people that I don't really respect when they talk about Battle Frontier stuff, everyone just knows that he's even remotely involved in the Battle Frontier in Gen 3, that this guy is one of the best candidates. He's just too good. The Water Ground typing only gives you a ×4 weakness to grass. And normally, as I've said before, one of the things you have to absolutely be against when it comes to Pokemon in the Battle Frontier is Pokemon with ×4 weaknesses. But there's a few exceptions, some very specific exceptions, and Swampert is one of them. Simply because there's not really very many strong grass moves, especially grass moves that are going to be used in non-grass Pokemon. Like your grass Pokemon like Vileplume and other random stuff, they can do like Petal Dance and do others maybe strong grass moves to kill you in one shot. But then in terms of general grass moves as TMs, like random stuff that any other Pokemon can use, the best move is Giga Drain. Okay? So if a random Tentacruel does Giga Drain on you, which it can in the Battle Frontier, there's a good chance you're going to survive with your HP investment, maybe special defense investment. You know, it's a weak attack, so even though it's ×4, it's not going to kill Swampert. So that's why it's good. Okay? Other Pokemon like Breloom, if they use a grass move, again, you might survive because it has very low special attack. So if you're really healthy and they do like Giga Drain, you might live. So it's not the end of the world. And besides that, this guy is just good. Stab, Earthquake, the Ice Beam, Surf, and Earthquake combination gives you a lot of coverage. Then you can do something like Rock Slide, or better yet, Protect to get some extra healing every turn with leftovers. You get some mini healing that way. And you got a great tank. I mean, he's effective against a lot of the Frontier Brains, the Pokemon that you're going to use. And it's just really reliable. You can't really say many bad things about this dude. So, S tier, easy. So we're going to ignore Mightyena, Linoone, you know, Beautifly, Dustox. These Pokemon are just, they're not good, of course. And let's talk a little bit about Ludicolo. Now I'm going to put this guy into, I'm thinking maybe C or B territory. I'm just going to put you to, well, let's put you to, man, it's tough. I'm thinking B or C. I'll put you at B. Maybe that's wrong. But the reason why I'm thinking hard about this Pokemon and why I think it's at least somewhat usable instead of completely useless, it's because of the Rain Dance Swift Swing combo. So if you guys know, when I talk about Kindra, you're going to hear me say, give it a lot of praise. And that's because that sort of combo is extremely good. You do Rain Dance, you boost your attack, but also you boost your Surf Stab. So it has that dual purpose, and it's really good. Kindra is the best Pokemon for that combo, but Ludicolo is, I guess, another lesser one. It has slightly more special defense, and the Grass-Water typing, I guess, is going to give you some maybe different edges over Water Dragon, although Kindra is still probably better in the typing department too, in general. But this guy can learn a few different moves, and one of the problems with Kindra is that it can't really do much against water Pokemon. You can do Dragon Breath, but that's about it. Ludicolo can use grass moves, of course, and it can even learn Thunder Punch, I'm pretty sure. So, you can hit those, and, you do the Rain Dance, Surf, Ice Beam, and then a grass move or maybe Thunder Punch, and you got better coverage, basically. Probably do grass moves so you can hit Lantern. So, I think this guy is better than something like Sceptile and Blaziken. It's just a lot more reliable. And not as fragile, too. Especially when you do, like, the Rain Dance shit. You don't have to overinvest in speed. Maybe with this guy you'll have to. Kindra, you don't have to. But you should still have a bunch of, EVs to put in HP or defense or something. So, I think B is a solid amount. Of course, you can also do like the Leech Seed, Stall, Toxic. You can do something like that too. But again, I wouldn't risk it. It's up to you though. Okay, then we got Shiftry. Now, Shiftry is not a useless Pokemon. Like if it was a 6 versus 6 with a little bit of planning, you could do like the Sunny Day shit and you could make him work, but in the Battle Frontier, it's a really bad idea. So I'm just going to put this guy to D, okay? Slightly solid offensive stats, but still not great at 100 base and 90 base special attack and attack. It does learn a lot of moves, and it even learns Explosion, so that's good stuff. But it can't really take a shot. It doesn't hit as hard, and it doesn't really have all the other utility benefits of Ludicolo. This is really like a combo Pokemon. Even in Ubers with Groudon, people try him, but for our purposes for the Battle Frontier, it's just a bad idea. Okay? Then we got Swellow, kind of the same idea. A fast Pokemon, flying and normal stab, okay, yeah, but then what? You don't hit hard enough, and then when they hit you, you're gonna die. So you can't use something like this. It's just bad. I'm not even going to put it into D. Pelipper, same idea, just gimmick stuff. And then we got Gardevoir. So Gardevoir, do I put this into B or do I put this into C again? I'll put it into B because I think is more reliable than Blaziken. At least this, you can just train it as a defensive Pokemon, and with the special defense, it can take some shots maybe. So, just being Mono-Psychic is not the greatest typing in the world. You don't really gain a bunch of resistances. You don't got too many weaknesses either, and Darkness is always special in Gen 3. Bug, there's not a lot of great bug moves. And Shadow Ball is probably the only thing you gotta worry about, really, to get killed in one shot. The main reason I got Gardevoir in B, I suppose, is because it does learn a bunch of moves that it's gonna give you good coverage. You can always do status. You can do a bunch of stuff. And, if you got like a good team and then maybe your third Pokemon is something like Gardevoir, you might perform a little bit. But I still don't think it's the best option. It is going to be fragile at the end of the day. It can hit hard and take the special attacks, but just the fact that automatically when your opponent throws out a Pokemon, you gotta just switch or just accept that you're gonna die in one shot is not good. You want to have Pokemon in the Battle Frontier that can put in work before they die no matter what. And if they're slow, like Metagross, you know that they're going to survive 99% of attacks. Okay? So, you just got... You're pretty safe for the most part. Like 99% of the time, you're safe in that you're going to do something. That's what you got to aim for in terms of Pokemon. Okay, so I'm going to keep Gardevoir at B. It's decent if you have like maybe a Swampert and let's say Swampert, Zapdos, and then Gardevoir. Different Pokemon, different weaknesses. It might be okay, but it's not my best recommendation. We're gonna rank everybody though, so that's why I can't just say nothing about everyone. Okay, then we got Breloom. So Breloom is a really risky Pokemon, but what you can do with Breloom is the Spore Substitute Focus Punch combo, and you can get some free kills, and you might really go far. So I'm going to put this in B as well. The problem is that even if you max out your speed, this guy isn't going to be the fastest Pokemon in the world, and then if your opponent outspeeds you, you're usually going to be killed in one shot, depending on the Pokemon they got. Breloom isn't really going to take a hit. The Grass Fighting combination, it has some useful resistances, but it's also going to have a bunch of weaknesses, mainly the double weakness to Flying too. So Random Aerial Ace, which a lot of Pokemon can use, you're going to be dead. That's about it. The other problem with Spore that I got, it's always the risk of you do Spore and then your opponent's Pokemon is holding a Lumberry or a Chestoberry. And if you don't know that, I know that all of the movesets for the trainers and the Pokemon, you can find that online too and sort of cheat that way. But I never did that besides knowing about the Pokemon the Frontier Brains use. I'm basically blind. Like when I'm playing against my opponent, it's all up to my knowledge of what their Pokemon can do and then prior experiences of, okay, I remember this is what these Pokemon usually do, their sets. Not just having all the sets in front of me. But anyway, that's why I'm putting Breloom into B. Besides the weakness of the Spore, your opponent having like a Chestoberry or Lumberry, and the weak speed, the Spore combo is powerful. Focus Punch is going to be powerful. So I think it deserves a good B. Then we got Slaking. Okay, so this is a controversial one because a lot of people think this guy's amazing. And I recognize the merit of him, but I also recognize the risks. So I'll put him into A, and I'm really just going back and forth between A and B with this guy too. The biggest weakness of this guy is, of course, the Taunt ability, loafing around. So once you make a move, the next turn you can't do anything. So what you want to do with this guy, of course, is ensure that you get one kill with him no matter what. Okay? Now, this isn't going to be very difficult to do when you can just hit something hard with the Choice Band, or even without the Choice Band, using Hyper Beam or Earthquake. You know, strong moves like that, you're going to put in a hell of a lot of work. And then if they hit you, you don't die. If you outspeed them, you can low front and then attack again. If you get 2 attacks out of him, that's great. If you don't, it's bad. And if your opponent has Protect, it's even worse because they can play around this guy completely and then you basically went with 2 Pokemon, as I said last time. It's pretty risky, and Protect is something else that a lot of Pokemon will do in the Battle Frontier. The other problem is, if you want to take advantage of the best, power move and your best offense, you got to use Hyper Beam. But then if Hyper Beam misses, again, you're in trouble. You're pretty much going to be dead. You've wasted a turn doing nothing, then you're going to loaf around. It's not going to take much for your opponent to either set up, do something that's going to screw you over, or just kill the Slaking. So it's pretty risky. Not to mention a lot of Pokemon are going to hold Bright Powder too. So that makes your Hyper Beam even more likely to miss. Now you can disregard the Hyper Beam and do Double Edge or Return, but then there's a loss of power. So yeah, it's a pretty risky Pokemon, but I cannot deny people use it to success, and I've used it as well to some success. It wouldn't be my top choice though, but I will keep him in A for now. Alright, so where are we now? We got Shedinja. Gimmick stuff, but I guess, what are you going to do? I guess you can sort of risk it. I'll put this into C. If you're going to cheat and know everything your opponent is going to do, then okay, I'm just going to use this Shedinja against this Pokemon because I already know its moves. I checked them on Bulbapedia. Then we can put this into B, but I'll keep it into C because really it's just gambling, risky stuff. Whatever gimmick you can think of, it works because you know what your opponent can't hit you, okay? And then against Tyranitar, you're dead automatically. If any random Pokemon does hail, you're dead automatically. So just see, that's it. Alright, Ninjask. Fast. You can do Baton Bass push. It's just bullshit stuff, risky stuff. And I don't recommend. I'm just going to put it into D. And then we got Exploud, same idea. The type of Pokemon that maybe against 6 versus 6 with a little bit of planning, you can do something, but you're not going to take a hit. Okay? The offenses are average. They're not useless, but they're average. It has a bunch of coverage moves. That's about it. Okay? Next up, we got Hariyama. I'm going to put this guy into... I'm thinking C or B, to be honest. He can take a hit. Ooh. I'll put you... B. I'll put you at B. Kind of makes me want to put Sebatal in B2 now. Decisions. You know what? I'll put... I'll put Sebatal in B, and I guess Blaziken. I think I want to keep Blaziken in C. Yeah, the thing is with Hariyama is it'll take a shot if you EV train it properly. Don't just put all the EVs in HP. Just make it so you're in that divided by 4 range. Do some research if you don't understand what I mean. You want the HP to be divided by 4, or maybe just even ignore it, and then put most of the EVs into defense and special defense, a split. And then this guy's going to be a pretty good tank. It'll be able to take a hit. So if you got leftovers on, maybe even protect, you know, you can have a little bit of the survivability factor that Swampert does. And then with 120 base attack, you know, stab fighting moves, Earthquake, you can hit some stuff hard. Rock Slide, additional coverage. So he's decent, but he's not very good because just being mono fighting doesn't do you that many favors. There's gonna be a lot of Psychic Pokemon in the Frontier, and then later on you gotta worry about Latios and Latias too. So if you get hit by Psychic, it's gonna sting a lot. Likely not gonna live if Psychic Stab is strong enough. So it's better than using some unreliable Pokemon that are not gonna be able to survive or hit hard. But again, not the greatest choice, just a decent choice. Maybe if you got the best of the best with you and then this guy as your third Pokemon, you can perform. Maybe you can just push and do get some gold symbols, but I'd keep him at B, no higher than B. Okay. Okay, where are we? Right here. Nosepass, yeah, no. Delcatty, no. These guys, all of them, not recommended. Aggron, one of my favorite rock steel type Pokemon, but it's just a bad idea. Too many risks. The stats are good. Like overall, the total stat total is solid. A lot of defense, high attack, solid enough HP for the rest of the package you're getting. But, you know, you gotta protect him against Earthquake, you gotta protect him against Surf, you gotta protect him against any fighting type move. Just too many weaknesses and too much stuff you gotta worry about. Okay, I gotta switch now. Every time you have to switch, when you do that, you gotta remember your opponent takes a free shot. So you want to not have to switch as much as possible. Okay? You don't want to switch unless you absolutely have to. And then a lot of the times, if you can just hit them first and do a lot of damage, it's better to just stay in, hit them, and then let your Pokemon that's over there die, and then you send in the next fresh one. A cleaner, let's say like a Starmie or even Sepital to finish something off. So you don't want to switch around 99% of the time in the Battle Frontier. You never know. There might be just a random critical hit, a random status. You don't want to just take chances like that. So Pokemon like Aggron with a lot of weaknesses that are just going to auto die, it's just too much of a liability. You know? You just got to be in the position of Swampert where you just have maybe one double weakness and it's not really so amazing like grass. So yeah, but in terms of, I guess, say some positive stuff about Aggron, it can do Earthquake, although it doesn't get Stab. Physical moves that are not going to be super effective, or maybe just be 2 times effective. But I mean, everything that would be super effective against it that's physical, it's ×4. It's fighting moves, ground moves, what else? Surf is special. I think those are the only weaknesses. So, yeah, just the most common moves you can think of. So it's unfortunate. And then because of the weak special defense, neutral moves like Thunderbolt are also going to stink. So, not a good idea to use this guy. Once again, it's a Pokemon that's better in something like 6 versus 6, where there's a lot more variables in the battle. And then you can switch around more. Okay, then we got Medicham. So this is the same idea, the same sort of situation with Blaziken. This Pokemon is going to hit really hard, but is not fast enough for you to go first, okay? And then if they hit you, you're dead. So it's a pretty big problem. I'd put him into C, and yeah, that's it. The way they train Pokemon in the Battle Frontier is they don't go to the max with EVs a lot of the time. So even though sometimes you might think your opponent is faster than you, if you're fully invested in speed, you're the one that's going to be faster. So that's when things like Blaziken and Medicham might be able to outspeed some Pokemon you wouldn't be able to outspeed and then hit them hard. But once again, it's just pretty risky. So I have it in C, but yeah, use it at your own discretion, I guess. I'm not sure what else to say. You got a bunch of coverage moves. At the same time, there's a lot of stuff you can't use, like the elemental punches. You can't utilize them. So you would have to have like a fighting type move like Brick Break, Shadow Ball, maybe something like Hidden Power. And then what else? Am I missing something? Yeah, the coverage isn't exactly going to be the sweetest either. Alright. Manectric. Same idea. This is like a really, really shittier Raikou / the Zapdos, Jolteon even. I'm just going to put it in C because, you know, it's not going to be as fast as Sceptile, but it learns better moves in terms of your coverage than Sceptile. It learns Flamethrower, I'm quite sure, even in Gen 3. I don't know if it learns Overheat. I know it learns Overheat in future gens, I think. In Gen 3, I'm not sure. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But the Thunderbolt Flamethrower combination is going to give you some good coverage. And I also think it learns Crunch in Gen 3, which is a special move. So you got something to hit a random Latios, I guess, so you can hit it before you die if you outspeed it. But it's just even more fragile than Sceptile. And yeah, it really won't survive. Being mono-electric only gives you ground weaknesses, but it doesn't give you any resistances. Sceptile is going to have some resistances at least, even if it has a bunch of weaknesses. Maybe against the right Pokemon, it'll fare well. And much higher special defense. So I'd put them in like B for Sceptile, C for Manectric. But I guess it's, if I thought about it harder, maybe they're neck and neck in a way. It depends. Okay, put you over here. Moving on, we're going to ignore a bunch of Pokemon here. Swallow just a bad idea. Like a Warsmach in many ways. Can learn a bunch of moves, but Yeah, not high enough stats. That's it. Muck is better, pretty much. Sharpedo, same idea. It's just, yeah, you can't make use of the attack stat very well. The 95 base special attack. If we could have used physical, darkness, and water moves, I'd put him in C. But because you can't, I'm gonna put him in D. Just really bad idea. Never gonna take any shot. Yeah, don't risk it with a Pokemon like this. It's just a recipe for disaster. Okay, Wailord. Same thing. Why use a Pokemon like this where you can use other better water Pokemon? High HP, but everything else is average. Unless you're gonna try and do bullshit like Fissure and Sheer Cold and get lucky. Just a bad idea. Alright, Camerupt, once again, ×2 weakness to Surf, the worst thing you can think of. You know, dying against such a common attack. Very, very slow. So, yeah, very, very risky Pokemon, and what are you gonna get out of it? Okay, Stab Earthquake, Stab Flamethrower, Overheat, okay, good. If you can attack, if you're not dead. Just bad idea, Pokemon. No survivability. Torkoal, same idea. What are you gonna do with it? Grumpig. I want to put this guy in the same sort of like a slightly shittier Gardevoir, because it has slightly worse special defense than Gardevoir, but has better HP. So they can kind of be neck and neck in that regard. But it has worse special attack. So once again, Gardevoir outclasses it. Speed-wise, I think they got the same speed. Or maybe Gardevoir is faster. But I think they both have like maybe 80 base speed. I'm pretty sure Gardevoir is 80. This guy I'm not completely sure. I think it's 82. But for the most part, I'd still say he's a kind of worse Gardevoir. Gardevoir can hit hard too. So, yeah, you can do a bunch of the similar stuff you would do with Gardevoir. Thick Fat though, yeah. Almost forgot about that. Resistance to fire and ice. That's kind of handy actually. And this guy has that too. I forgot to talk about it. That's pretty good. So I'm thinking between C or B, although, yeah, weak stats. I'll keep him in C. Gardevoir is probably still better. Okay, Flygon. Okay, this is a tough one to talk about. Put you into B. So, Flygon, again, ×4 weakness to ice. So many random stuff can just hit you with Ice Beam. It's not just ice Pokemon, just random water Pokemon. Nearly all of them can learn it. Other random Pokemon that can do it. It's just extremely risky, okay? If you get hit with Ice Beam, you're dead. You're not surviving that. Besides that problem, Flygon is really good. The Ground Dragon combination will levitate. It's gonna have you be resistant and be able to checkmate a bunch of different Pokemon. Earthquake Stab, good. Rock Slide, coverage. I'm not sure if it learns Shadow Ball, but if not, then you can have something like Hidden Power Ghost. If you can have something like that, it's gonna be handy. And then maybe Aerial Ace for something like Breloom or Heracross if it shows up. And then you got a good, fast enough Pokemon that can also hit hard. That is also going to be able to take a hit maybe with 80 base defenses and HP. That's why I got it in B. It really just, it's that ice weakness. If it wasn't for the ×2 ice weakness, I might even put it in A. So yeah. Good Pokemon. Pokemon like this, like, let's say this Flygon and then Salamence. A lot of these like maybe B Pokemon, they're going to be good enough for the Battle Dome. Okay, So the Battle Dome, because you always get to know what your opponent is using, then you can prepare for the weaknesses of these Pokemon and say, okay, I'm going to take these guys, these two Pokemon with me, and then I'm covered. The Battle Dome is the easiest facility out of all of the Battle Frontier facilities, I'd say. So even in Gold, if you're a good enough player, you bred strong Pokemon and then you train them right, and you got skill in the game and you know what you're doing, then maybe these B Pokemon, they can make it to the top, you could say. If you only bring one of them and then the rest of the stuff is S tier and A tier Pokemon. In other facilities though, you're probably gonna struggle. Okay? So yeah, that's what I have to say. These are sort of the weaknesses and problems with something like Flygon. Okay, Cacturn. High offenses, stab moves, lots of options in general, but like Camerupt, you're gonna die in one shot. Nothing you can do about it. Not gonna go anywhere. Altaria, why use this? It's just gonna be a worse Dragonite, or worse in every regard. So yeah, it's sad, but it's the truth. The times for weakness, the ice too. Like if it wasn't for that, then you could go at sea. But I love Altaria. It's just such a wonderful Pokemon, majestic Pokemon. But it just sucks, unfortunately. They had to do something with it that, you know, even though it's gonna have worse stats than something like Dragonite, at least it has something else going for it besides the rest combo with Early Bird. It's not good enough. Just something to differentiate it from other dragons. But anyway, I digress. These guys, yeah, it's done one shot. Not really serious Pokemon. Same with Lunatone and Solrock. Dying to Surf, dying to almost anything. You're not really doing much with them. Wishcash, goes without saying, it's just a much worse Swampert. Can't do anything with it. Crawdont, yeah. Claydol. Now Claydol I would actually put in C, or maybe, nah, I don't think I would do B. You do have the explosion. The thing is with Claydol is, you wanna, when you got explosion on you, you only get a pass from me if you can kill something and then explode and kill something else. If you have to explode to kill something, then you're not really top tier. So Metagross, for example, he can kill something, or even just two Pokemon, and then still be ready to explode. But something like Claydol, something like Electrode, I guess, can they really kill something? You get the Stab Earthquake, perhaps you can do something. But, you know, because of the low HP, even though it's got good defense and very good special defense, a lot of times it might not be enough. So I think just putting it in C. Yeah, once again, it's a similar situation with Gardevoir, but Gardevoir can kill things. That's the thing. If it hits something with Psychic, with Thunderbolt, it can kill stuff. That's the thing. Something like Claydol with only 75 base special attack and attack, or 70 actually. 75 is the speed. It's not really going to make the cut, so I'm going to keep it in C. You can check some Pokemon, maybe they're not going to be able to touch you, but that's about it. Stuff like Rapid Spin doesn't matter. This is not Smogon, it's Battle Frontier. It's just 3 versus 3. Nobody's going to be switching around all day, so things like Rapid Spin to get rid of spikes doesn't matter. Okay. We're at Cradily right now, I think, and Cradily is just going to get a straight B. Because this Pokemon can be pretty dangerous if you use it right with a bunch of other Pokemon. It can learn Recover, so you can heal. If you do like stall shit with it, it's one of the Pokemon that you might have a shot. But I wouldn't use it in facilities. Like, I wouldn't really try and gamble it in the battle tower. Again, maybe something like the palace and the dome. But yeah, the palace too. The palace, where just a bunch of Pokemon do random stuff. I like it. You can do, like, if you're not going to be doing shit, you're doing random moves. If you're doing random moves like Curse or Barrier or Amnesia, they gotta use still. Earthquake, Rock Slide, Giga Drain, Toxic, Recover. It can do a bunch of stuff, and that Rock Grass combination doesn't really... You got weaknesses to Ice, but if they don't hit you with Stab, you can take one. That's the important part. Fighting type moves, not too many great fighting type moves. So once again, you might be able to take a shot. So it's just a good Pokemon, much more reliable than the stuff in C, let's say. I've used it, so it's not the best choice, but it's solid. It really just goes perfectly into the B tier, I'd say. Okay. Armaldo, this is going into the B tier as well. So this guy, I've described him as basically a shittier Tyranitar in my old Smoke On video at this point. And it's just a great description to give. Similar things, you know, high attack. It's gonna do a lot of the same stuff. You know, you want an Earthquake, you want a Rock Slide. If you can have something like Silver Wind, like a Bug Stab, Hidden Power, whatever. You got that too. Yeah, that's it. Similar, like, in terms of you're gonna hit as hard as Tyranitar, kind of. And you don't have the double weakness of fighting that Tyranitar has. And not as many weaknesses in general because of the Bug Rock combination. You don't got a lot of weaknesses, as many weaknesses, but you don't have a lot of resistances either. So once again, it kind of evens out in that way. So for example, Tyranitar has a bunch of weaknesses, but that dark typing is also going to give you resistances. It's going to give you some benefits against Latios and Latias in a way this guy doesn't have. And because it has lower, shittier stats than Tyranitar too, you know, Tyranitar, even though he's weak to Surf, let's say, as well, it might take one of those. Armaldo usually won't be able to. So that's why I got him in B. It's like a shittier Tyranitar. Tyranitar is probably still the better choice, especially because it has Sandstream too. But then it can put in more work compared to these other guys because it can at least take a shot, hit something. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just a solid, decent enough Pokemon. Once again, maybe if you put it into the Battle Dome, you can put in some work with it. Okay, where are we? Milotic. Okay, so this one is easy. It's going into A. Might even put it in S, actually. I do wonder. I think, yeah, S. It's definitely better than Slaking. So, Milotic is very, very good. I've used it to a lot of success. Just have it calm or modest, something to boost either one of its special stats, or maybe even something like bold. You're not getting the biggest buff, because to get the most out of natures, you gotta put them on your highest stat. So you'd get a much bigger buff if you were calm instead of bold. But if you just get it with great IVs, but it's bold, then you can still use that. It's just a very amazing Pokemon. Extremely resilient, has Recover, has good enough special attack, and then the Ice Beam Surf combination, it's gonna hurt a lot of stuff. Some stuff, of course, you're not gonna be able to touch, but that's where Toxic comes in. You know, if you got Toxic, Surf, Ice Beam, and then Recover, you can just pretty much handle nearly everything. Just do something to it, except Tentacruel. That's about it. Okay? So it's just extremely, extremely good. It's going to be difficult to get in Gen 3 because, like I've said, I'm talking about it in the sense that you're not going to cheat. But if you can acquire it, you know, evolve it with the berries, the Pokeblocks, catch the Feebas, evolve into it, and then train it up. It's such a strong Pokemon. It's extremely good. Marvel skill as well, when they hit it with status, it's, once again, just makes it last even longer. It's just too good. It was a key Pokemon when I won in the Battle Palace as well against Gold, against Spencer. You're not going to be disappointed with this guy. A lot of the times now I favor him over Swampert, to be honest. So, if you want the best of the best, and you don't want Swampert, you want a mono water, Milotic, along with like maybe Suicune, you're probably your best choices. Okay. Where are we now? We are at the cast forms. Nope. Then there's like this Kecleon. Yeah, not even gonna bother. Dusclops. Let's put you into C. Again, risky stuff, but if you do like Protect, Will-O-Wisp, got like a move like Earthquake, maybe you can kill something. It's just Pain Split. Not the best tank option. If you want to do something like that, use Umbreon, I'd say. Use Umbreon, use Cradily, just a lot better options, but I will admit I did use this guy in the Battle Pyramid. But because if you use like, you go there, you got your highest defense, and then you don't got, it doesn't have good HP, it means you make better use of your hyper potions and stuff. So it's easier to make him go back to full health compared to if you had something like Cradily, let's say, in the Pyramid. But that was a long time ago. Maybe in hindsight it was a bad idea to use him even there. But I think C is just good enough for him. Obviously, if this was 6 vs 6 Smogon, he'd be much better. He'd be like A or something. But, yeah, I think I'd put him, I don't know, man. Am I being too harsh at C? Maybe I put him in B because he doesn't have many weaknesses either. That's tough. I'll put him into... I'll put him actually into maybe B. But again, you're going to have to tread carefully and do everything right with him. There's always the risk of shit like critical hits too, so... But he's actually pretty defensive. Your opponent's usually going to have a hard time killing him if they don't got the right Pokemon. And like really, all you got to worry about is like Shadow Ball and Crunch for super effective stuff. That's it. So I think it's decent at B, I think. Gonna give him a little boost. Okay. Benetti, this is straight D. Yeah. Good attack, a good special attack that doesn't matter, and then you're dead in one shot. Same position as Cacturn, Crawdund. You're just not suited for this environment. Tropius. Double weakness to ice without the benefits of the dragon, so yeah, you can straight D. Chimecho, yeah, not gonna bother with Pokemon like this. Absol, same idea. I think this guy, you can do like reversal shit with it to an Endure. So, am I gonna put you in like C? Let's put you into C, but I'm being really generous. I really like Absol. It's a cool Pokemon, one of my favorite darks, if not my favorite. Just very risky Pokemon. It's almost kind of silly that this guy is in the same boat as something like Claydol or Grumpig, but whatever. I guess you can hit hard. I'm thinking to myself though, what moves are you going to take advantage of when you can't have Dark Stab? You got to do shit like Shadow Ball. I don't think this thing learns Earthquake. Actually, I'm pretty confident it doesn't learn Earthquake. You use special moves, you're not really doing much, so you gotta do reversals, you gotta do a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, no, I can't. I gotta put him in D. It just barely is not good enough for C. Okay, let's just keep going. Cradily, yeah. Know the deal. What are you gonna do with this besides explode? Nothing. I mean, unless you play against a dragon, something that you can hit with Ice Beam and it dies. Okay, Walrein. Okay, so this is much, much better. I'll put this into... You know, there's not much point in using this guy because he's pretty much like a weaker Swampert or Milotic, or if you want to do Ice Water, Lapras. But he's not weak, it's just he's outclassed, so I'll just put him in B. I guess you can have a physical move on him like Earthquake too. He has very high stats. The bulk is 100% there. So he's not going to die easily, and he can hit stuff hard with his special attack. So he's not bad. It's just that, why use this guy when you can use Lapras? Unless you're going to do something like Curse, which once again, you're risking it, getting a critical hit. Lapras is better. If this was Gen 4 Hail teams, then yeah, you can do the combo with Abomasnow. Then he's great. I used him a lot. But in Gen 3, B is where it's at. And then these guys, yeah, just much shittier Pokemon for the Rain Dance. I'll put them into C. Yeah. You can do Ice Beam, you can do Surf, you can do Rain Dance, but you're just pretty much shittier versions than Ludicolo even. I'd say. I guess they can hit harder than Ludicolo, but you also don't have all the benefits Ludicolo has in terms of bulk and then the grass stab. So, yeah. I guess I'd put them in C. Relicanth. So this guy, if you don't know about his stats, you probably always think, oh, he's a shit Pokemon. But this guy actually is defensive. With its defense and HP, and then you spread it out in the special defense, once again, divide it by 4 in the HP, put the spares in special defense, don't max out the defense. He's gonna be bulky, but then the problem is you can't really do much else. His special attack is horrible, so the water stab, you completely lose it. I guess you can do Rock Slide and Earthquake. Okay, yeah. Then what? So I'd put him in C. Because he does have that double weakness to grass too. And weakness to ground is not as bad because he has very high defense. He is going to be very susceptible though to electric attacks, unlike something like this dude. So that's why, you know, he's not... I think C is just where it's at, where you should be. You know, when I compare this with Milotic, you don't got Recover. You have worse offensive stats. You know, you can't really make use of your Water Stab. You got Earthquake, but you can't make use of Ice Beam either. I think C is pretty fair, okay? And there's no Head Smash in this game, so yeah, if we had Head Smash, I'd put you in a B straight up. Alright, and now for my favorite Pokemon of all time, my beloved Salamence. So, I have to be honest with Salamence. I've said this before. I guess I'll be more generous. I won't put you into B because this guy... I'm gonna put him slightly ahead of Flygon, even though technically they're the same. Even though he has much better stats than Flygon, it's that ice problem that automatically makes me not want to use this guy except in the Battle Dome. But other people have told me, oh, I use Salamence and it just wrecked. So, yeah, and they got the gold symbols. They didn't just talk. They told me, I got gold symbols using Salamence. Okay, so I think A is fair enough. Like with Slaking, there's some very big risks with this Pokemon, mainly the Ice Beam. If your opponent throws out a Pokemon that can do Ice Beam and they know they can do Ice Beam, you're forced to switch, and I never want to be in this position. Otherwise, you gotta sacrifice the Salamence. But because it's so good, and because it's fast, hits so hard, it got intimidated, got so much stuff, I cannot put it into anything below than A. You can't really make use of your dragon type in terms of physical dragon moves. But between the D-Dance, maybe Earthquake, perhaps Aerial Ace, if you got a good hidden power. Of course, you're always going to have a fire move as well for some steel types like Skarmory. And then the 4-time steel type Pokemon. You're great. So this guy is just good. Really, the only worry you got is Ice. That's about it. Everything else, you're always going to take a shot. You can always hit hard. Intimidate is going to cripple physical attackers even more. You know, he's always going to put in a performance. You can do Crunch. So you could technically hit Latias as well. It learns Hydro Pump by Egg Move, so you can make him special Brick Break. He's obviously so good. People should know this guy's good. It's just the Ice weakness. So I'll put him in A. I can't put him in S. But yeah, I'm going to be... I think I was a lot harsher on Salamence when I did my best Pokemon to use in the Frontier video. I got to be more realistic and put him in A right now. Okay. Metagross. Well, this one's just easy. This one's going to S. So unlike Salamence, this guy is very, very reliable because you only got to worry about fire and ground type moves. And if you don't get hit by something like Rhydon with Stab Earthquake, you're going to take him. If something random hits you with Earthquake, with your 130 base defense and good HP, you're going to survive that. So you only have to worry about some stab fire moves and killing this guy in one shot. Everything else, this guy can always take. If he's faster than some Pokemon, man, it's even more trouble for your opponent because you can attack, they attack you, they're not going to kill you, you kill them, then something else comes out, you still survive, you get another hit in, you might explode. He's just extremely, extremely good. What is a bit of a nuisance on it is that, of course, if you're going to use this guy, you're going to have Meteor Mash. It's his main stab. But that attack has shaky accuracy, and a lot of the times, just because of that, you're going to be fucked over. I've had situations where I missed 2 times in a row Meteor Mash, and I'm thinking like, come on, man, what the fuck? And you basically get punished like that. Bad luck like that, and even if, no matter what Pokemon you got, you're going to lose in the Frontier. So that's why it's a bit annoying. But the truth is, this guy is extremely good. He might be like, I guess, I wouldn't say the strongest Battle Frontier Pokemon, but the most consistent in the sense that anywhere you bring him with you, he's always kind of good. Okay? He can always do something. Just high stats, not many weaknesses for shit, you know, clear body, you can't get your attacks and just stats get decreased. Explosion option, although I don't really recommend explosion, but most people would have it on this guy. Yeah, it's just a great Pokemon. I don't need to elaborate on it, I think, anymore. It's S tier. This is one of the Pokemon that no matter what you're going to do in the Battle Frontier, it's something I think you got to train up. Eventually, you are going to use them, especially against Annabelle. Okay. Then we got the Regis. How interesting. So, I got a lot of good things to say about these guys. The same stuff that I said in my fucking Smogon video. let's put them all in A for now. And I'll just analyze them as I go. So all of these guys, they're legendary Pokemon, so they have very high stats, okay? So even though they got weaknesses, like Regirock is going to be weak to Earthquake and Surf. Regice is going to be weak to a lot of stuff since it's ice, like Rock and Flamethrower. They have very high stats, so they're always going to be able to take at least one major hit. Especially if it's in their native, let's say, their good stat that they can take hits. So fire attacks, Regirai is always going to live. If it's something like Rock Slide, maybe not, depending on who uses it, but you're going to live against fire moves. Regirock, same idea. He's weak to Earthquake, but because he has such high defense, he can take comfortably a couple of them, depending on how you train him. So all of these guys can do Explosion too, especially Regirock. Because its main good offensive stat is the attack, you can take great advantage of Earthquake, Rock Slide, Explosion. So you got a nice beater going on. And Regice is probably the best of the three in general, but I have a soft spot for Regirock because I've also used him to get the last gold symbol I needed to get in the Battle Palace against Spencer. I brought this guy as something to deal with Arcanine, and then something that can fuck with Slaking too, of course. Against Suicune, he wouldn't be good. But just to put him work against the other dudes, it's great. And he's just a good Pokemon, man. Of course, you're going to have to soft reset for these legendaries. But like I've said, it's something you can do if you got multiple games. If you're serious about the gold symbols. You know, you got your main game and then you got your decoy games that are just going to try and farm stuff. Soft reset for legendaries. Shit like that. If you're serious about getting the gold symbols, you're going to need to train a bunch of Pokemon. That's the fun part out of it, to be honest. It's the journey. It's the fact that you're going to try and train a bunch of Pokemon, even if you don't use all of them. It's like you're preparing for something grand that maybe you're not even going to need all these Pokemon for. But yeah, I truly miss that. And the Regis are some of the best legendaries you can soft reset for. Regice, the benefit it has over Regirock is the Ice Beam Thunderbolt combination. It's very hard to find Pokemon to resist against. You're going to hit something hard all the time. The Ice Stab also gives you a great edge against Latios and Latias, which is excellent. All of these guys can do Thunder Wave too, which I don't really recommend, but it's something you could do if you wanted to. And yeah, it's just, they can always just survive. They're resilient. They can just put in work. Registil is probably the shittiest of the bunch, just because he's in that position where he's going to be more well-rounded. But because he has 115 both special defense and defense, it means that when they do hit you for super effective, you're not going to take them as well as Regice or Regirock. So if you get hit with Flamethrower, you're going to get hurt more. If you get hit with Earthquake, you're going to get hit more than Regirock. You also can't hit that hard, so you do have to use this as a sort of stall Pokemon. So I think ultimately I would maybe put this in B and then keep the other dudes as in A, because these guys can hit, they can kill stuff. This guy can't really. I mean, he doesn't even get any good stab, like metal moves that are going to be good. What's the best like metal move or steel type move in Gen 3? It's Iron Tail, which he doesn't learn, has bad accuracy, and then you gotta do like Metal Claw or some shit. At least this guy can do Rock Slide. Regice can do Ice Beam, of course. So I'll put him in B. Maybe if you use him as a stall Pokemon, we can maybe put him in A, but then he's like a fucking Dusclops without a lot of the tricks Dusclops can do. So I'll keep him in B. Okay, but he's really reliable. I mean, he's just almost like a B+, A-. All right, and then the Latias, they're basically the last Pokemon. I completely forgot to talk about these guys in my old video where I talked about the best Pokemon. And that's because these guys are Ubers over there, so they sort of escaped me. When I was looking at the O tier, they weren't there, so I forgot about them. But it goes without saying, these are some of the best Pokemon you can use in the Battle Frontier. If you can catch them with good IVs in Emerald, in Ruby and Sapphire, you won't be able to. But if you got the Eon ticket and you go to Southern Island, you can catch them with good IVs there. They're extremely good. People are going to tell you Latios is the best Pokemon to use in the Emerald Frontier. I disagree with this. And they're also going to tell you, oh, this guy is just better than Latias. Again, I kind of disagree with this. They say that because this guy has higher special attack, so you can effectively one-hit KO and just kill things easier. And when you're trying to just kill things and be aggressive, that's why he's technically kind of the better choice than Latias. But I like Latias better just because I'm always about the stat distributions, don't want any points wasted, and Latias doesn't have any points wasted. The attack is weaker than the defense. This guy has higher attack than defense, but if you're not going to use attack, it means you lose 10 points for nothing. Latias doesn't have that problem. Much more special defense, so you can take ice beams and dragon moves and other stuff much better. But both of them are excellent. They can learn Recover, they can learn a bunch of coverage moves. Surf, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Psychic, Calm Mind. They're going to put in the work. Now, in some ways, I'd actually say Milotic is better than both of them. From my experience, I used Latias and Milotic in like the same team together. And a lot of the times, it's like Latias let me down. And if I just had a different Pokemon or just had a second Milotic, I would have been in a better position. So I don't really know how to explain it. You just got to play the game to figure these things out. But yeah, they're obviously going to be S tier. The rest of the guys you can't use, unfortunately. It would have been great if you could use Jirachi and Deoxys in the Frontier, but you cannot. And then these guys are obviously completely bad too. And these are my rankings for Gen 3 for the Hoenn region. Your S tiers, definitely Swampert, Milotic, Metagross, Latios and Latias. A tier, Salamence, Slaking, I'm kind of putting in there, and I'm not sure, but I'd put him in A. If it's not A, he would be like B plus maybe. Definitely risky. I'd rather, like, between these A's, I'd say Salamence, Regirock, and Regias are better. Okay? B, we got a bunch of B Pokemon. Some of them I'm not really sure. To be honest, maybe I'd put Sepital in C. Some Pokemon that are in B as well here could go to C. The really good Bs here are Flygon, Cradily, Armaldo, I guess. I'd say so. Walrein, Registeel, and maybe, again, Dusclops. I'm kind of so-so. The C Pokemon, yeah, you're just really just trying to make it harder for yourself at this point if you use any of these guys. But it's up to you. And then everything else, you really shouldn't bother. Okay? So that's the video, guys. It was really long, but I hope you enjoyed hearing me ramble about all of these guys. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share the video with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time. What up?